Yes, another day, another new Chinese vehicle model hits Australia. This one's called the GAC EMZOOM. Bit of a weird name, but it's competing against the likes of Mazda CX-3 and even CX-30 in terms of size. But the price tag is definitely one of the main attractions. $25,590 excluding on roads. That's amazingly low for this size vehicle and for the amount of kit that you're getting. Power comes from a 1.5 litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine, 130 kilowatts, which is pretty impressive for this class, paired up to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic with front-wheel drive. For this video, I'm just doing a short drive as a part of the media launch event. We're going to go down some winding roads and so on, and I'll see if I can do some performance testing later on. First thing I noticed is the interior, well, the size is pretty big for its class, but also the quality. Like, you've got nice trimmings everywhere, no scratchy, nasty plastics, or not much of it anyway. Even above the door trims here, it's got this rubbery stuff, you can dig your finger in there, and then you've got a material across the dash that joins up with the door trims as well. It feels nice on the road, it's not rattling about, it doesn't feel echoey in here. It definitely doesn't reflect that really low price tag. And in the back you've got a decent amount of rear seat space, bit of leg room. It's not all-wheel drive, as I said, so you've got no need for a center driveline tunnel running through, and you've got a pretty basic torsion beam rear suspension setup. I guess that's okay for a cheap run around like this. It just maximizes the cabin space and boot space. And right up the back you've got a decent sized boot, again for this class and for the price you're paying. Alright, so what's it like to drive? Well, that engine is, got a lot of grunt for a 1.5 litre. It does make a bit of a noise higher up in the revs, but you can hear the sort of turbo whistling and sneezing a little bit. Just slow down and give it full power. I'm just in comfort mode. Decent kickdown as well from that 7-speed dual clutch. Look, I probably wouldn't prefer a dual clutch in a vehicle like this, you know, if I could select between a torque converter and a dual clutch, because it's just very sporty, it shifts gears very fast, helps with economy as well, but there is a bit of sort of rolling and, you know, a bit of slack at low speeds when you're coming out of car parks and so on, as expected with pretty much any dual clutch auto. So in that sense, a torque converter would be just a little bit more smooth, but yeah, you are getting benefits in terms of that fuel economy and performance. There's no paddle shifters on the steering wheel, so it's not trying to be overly sporty, but yeah, you do have a sport mode. The handling seems pretty good as well. There's not excessive body roll at all. It actually doesn't feel too bad going down this winding road. Even with that sort of basic rear suspension setup, it just goes where you point. I do notice the ride is a little bit choppy, especially over the finer details, like, you know, even these little reflectors on the road here. Sort of crashes a little bit, but as you may notice, the tyres are pumped up to 41 psi for some reason. Now that is warm, but they say it's about 4 psi, the difference between cold and warm. So 41 minus 4, you've got 37 psi, which is probably too high for a little SUV like this. Fair enough if it was a big pickup truck or something like that, but yeah, I noticed the tyres are Century with an S. I haven't had much experience with those tyres, so, you know, maybe upgrade the tyres if you're after that sort of thing, or a bit more, you know, dynamics and better handling, better grip. But other than that, it actually handles okay for what it is. Visibility is great. I can see all around the front here. The dashboard sort of drops down. I've got a bit of a gap between the mirror and the pillar. I don't feel intimidated to drive this at all. Like, it feels like a typical sort of run around. You just want to whiz down to the shops. It's not overwhelming at all. It does have that kind of coupe or even hatchback style of profile, but even so, yeah, it's got good visibility all out the front. Then up on the dash we've got a 14.6 inch touchscreen. Look, it is a bit big for my liking, as you may have heard me say before. I prefer, you know, less distraction if possible, but it is good. You've got physical buttons down below for the main stuff like the aircon, temperature control, and even a volume knob. The touchscreen itself presents good graphics, nice and clear, nice and crisp. Even the surround view cameras, like, awesome tech for this price tag. Usually you've got to spend up big to access this sort of stuff. I found a spot we can do a quick 0 to 100 run. I'm not going to time it, but just to give you a bit of an idea of the performance. In sport mode, this is a 100 km/h speed zone. It's fairly quiet. goes. That's 100. Well, first impressions, that's actually surprisingly good for the price, not even including the price. If this was about 35 grand, I still think it would stack up quite well against a lot of the competitors. Just in terms of features and the way it drives, it's quite smooth. The dual clutch transmission, it is a wet type dual clutch, but it still has some lagging and clunkiness at low speed, particularly when you're in car parks and so on, and on hills. I don't think it needs a dual clutch automatic, but that does help to trim consumption. Fuel consumption rating is 6.6 litres per 100 kilometres, which is pretty good for this class. Not the absolute best though, if you're after complete fuel economy, but this does have a lot of power, 125 kilowatts. Stack it up against most of the rivals, and yeah, this has got better performance. The design is really nice. It's got a bit of Cupra going on, in my opinion, but not in a weird copycat way. It's got its own distinctive theme, especially at the back. The angled tail lights give it a sort of angry face look about it. But yeah, I think it looks quite nice. You've even got an aggressive spoiler up the top there, some black trimmings to make it look like it's got a floating roof. Even the gunmetal grey alloy wheels give it a classy European theme. And as I said, the interior build quality, presentation is very good as well. And again, not just for the price, but for this class overall. Just jumping in the back, yeah, good amount of room. It feels pleasant. You do have a single climate vent, which I find a little bit annoying. So you can only spray the aircon one way, and you've got a USB A port down there. But compare it against any rival that's priced around this, or even probably likely to be higher than this, and it might not even come with a climate vent or a charging port at all. So yeah, I think the value equation here, the showroom appeal is very high. You've even got little pockets for your phone, a separate pocket there, bottle holders in the door, and more of that soft touch trim. It even has an electronic tailgate, which you don't get with many rivals in this price category. Obviously, the main concerns are around the fact that this is a new brand for Australia. So we don't know anything about long-term reliability. We don't know anything about how they deal with warranties or parts supply, and whether or not the brand is actually going to be around here in 5 or 10 years. So that is a risk that you have to weigh up. But on first impressions, like if this had a Nissan badge or a Mitsubishi or whatever, Toyota badge on it, it would seem totally fine. I think the distinctive design is what is going to sort of push it ahead, apart from the low price tag, but also the feature set. Like, you've got plenty of features in here for this price. I'll have more specs and details in the written review linked in the description of this video.